I wish to emphasize that nobody gains from this situation of conflict and insecurity. We have triggered the Otumfo mediation process, which saw all stakeholders participate in discussions in Kumasi on a roadmap towards peace. I'm assured by the Asantehene that the process will resume next week when he returns from his brief visits abroad. Congratulations to our armed forces for the sacrifices you have made, even at the peril of your lives, to protect life and property in the Boku conflict area. My brothers and sisters, building a better Ghana requires collective efforts and shared responsibility. Let me also reiterate that the celebration of Eid al-Fitr is one that should be done with peace and dignity. Unfortunately, in the past, reckless riding, reckless driving has led to unfortunate loss of life. And I want to say, no one must die in the celebration of Eid. No one must die at the end of the celebration of the holy month of Ramadan. And so I'm going to caution our young people who drive their cars recklessly and ride their motorbikes recklessly. I've asked the police to look out for you. And if you ride recklessly or drive recklessly, we'll arrest you. My brothers and sisters, let us work together, guided by the principles of faith, justice, and compassion, to create a brighter future for ourselves and future generations. May Allah bless our nation and guide us on the path of peace and prosperity. And on this day, I want to take the opportunity once again to call on our brothers and sisters in Boku to give peace a chance. On this holy occasion, where we celebrate the feast of Eid al-Fitr after the holy month of Ramadan, my brothers and sisters in Boku, let us give peace a chance. Once again, I extend my warmest wishes to all Muslims in Ghana and all over the world. Eid Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We also signed a memorandum of understanding on political consultation, a bilateral air services agreement, also known as Air Transport Agreement between Ghana and the Czech Republic. It is our hope that the implementation of these MOUs will reinvigorate and spearhead cooperation in various sectors between our two countries. Ghana got slapped with 10%, which is the lowest in the tariffs that were rolled out, but a country like Lesotho got slapped with 46%. So it has very severe implications for everybody. And I believe that a multilateral world serves us all better than unilateral world, where people just take decisions based on only their country's interests. We must look at the broader global partnerships and the global interests rather than just our parochial national interests.
Let me start with the general statement. I think imposing tariffs in such a brutal way really doesn't help either side. It will not help the situation in Africa, but it will not help situation in Europe, Asia, and even United States. I really think that we have to collectively address the United States to rethink this approach.
continues to endanger lives and displace residents. Over the past few months, the intensity and frequency of attacks, including sporadic shootings, arson, and home invasions, have escalated, with reports suggesting a high death toll, with many people said to be missing than those reported dead. The growing sophistication of weaponry used in these attacks is particularly alarming, raising questions about the sources of arms and the effectiveness of measures to curb their proliferation. Recent developments, including targeted bus attacks and the setting ablaze of the residence of the Honorable Mahama Ayariga, the majority leader, reflect the increasing volatility of the situation and the level of frustration among sections of the youth. The failure to de-escalate tensions leads to a cycle of reprisals, which, if unchecked, will further entrench insecurity in the area. As a strategic border town, Boku's instability poses a wider national and regional security risk. The expansion of attacks to other regions, including the Northeast and Ahafo region, have further underscores the urgent need for a more coordinated response. Beyond the immediate security concerns, the instability has devastated the affected communities. Schools have been forced to shut down, depriving children of their right to education, while key institutions and businesses are fleeing the area due to safety concerns. Critical sectors such as education and healthcare are severely impacted, with teachers, nurses, and other professionals refusing postings to Boku for fear of their safety. The continued insecurity is gradually crippling essential services, worsening the plight of residents, and deepening the humanitarian crisis. It is evident that the current approach to addressing the conflict has not been sufficient to restore calm. The government must demonstrate greater urgency and decisiveness. The deteriorating situation in Boku is a national concern, and the government must take immediate action to prevent further escalation. The people of Boku deserve to live in peace and security, and we urge, as a minority caucus, urge the government to prioritize a sustainable resolution to the crisis before it spirals further out of control.
Our Muslim communities have made significant contributions to Ghana's development, and I would like to take this opportunity to commend you for your efforts. From education and healthcare to business and governance, the impact of our Muslim brothers and sisters is evident everywhere. Our Zongo communities remain centers of entrepreneurship, trade, and cultural enrichment. However, we must do more to ensure that the development in our Muslim communities is balanced and catches up with the rest of the country. We must invest in quality education for our children. We must improve healthcare facilities and create opportunities that will help our youth to achieve their full potential. Education remains the most powerful tool for change, and I want to encourage our Muslim youth to embrace it fully. Education is our opportunity for social mobility. Islam itself teaches us that seeking knowledge is a lifelong duty for every Muslim. The future of Ghana.
So the visit by the IGP to the Boku enclave is a step in the right direction. I mean, it's something that everybody should applaud. But what I am reading from social media, if that is true, then the IGP's visit is rather going to create more problems than good. To say that lay down your tools, and that if you lay down your tools, we will consider you for recruitment. It's something that one cannot understand. Why should people, I mean, yes, it is important. In order to de-escalate the situation in the Boku enclave, it is important that we get all parties involved to lay down their tools. But for me, it will be absurd to recruit people into the security services based on the fact that they've laid down their tools. What it means, that if you do not even meet the criteria to be recruited into the security service, you will be recruited into the security service because you have laid down your tool. That obviously is not the way to go. It is important that we deal with the Boku issue once and for all. I mean, if we all know the sensitivities surrounding the Boku issue, so if you are not careful and then one ethnic group lay down tools and then they are recruited into the security services, we all know the chaos this is going to create for the nation. It is simply not the way to go. We from the minority will support every move to bring finality and then to find solution to the situation in Boku, because Boku is a border town. And if care is not taken and we get these armed groupings, using Boku as a very weak point, the entire country will be on its knees. We don't want that. So as a security, as a minority group, we will support any solution to bring peace to the Boku enclave.
Part of the flooding in the city is caused by human activity. We are the problem. What is happening here does not affect the factories here. The water comes from somewhere, and once it can pass and continue, it will back up and affect the communities beyond. If you build and block a stream, the water will still come, but when it comes and it can't pass, what will it do? It will flood its banks. That's all that is happening in this city. The assembly allowed this to happen. And that's why you have the chief executive, you have assembly members. They must be conscious of all this. These are waterways, like he said. Can you imagine the volume of water that this place alone can hold when it rains? And so if you fill it up and you say there should just be a drain passing through, the drain cannot contain that water. And so let's do what we have to do. They should remove all this, and it should be at the cost of the people who did it. They should take this back where they brought it from. I'd have thought that the contractors would take advantage of the dry season and work as quickly as possible so that we would have been ahead with these projects by now. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And so we just have to caution citizens of Accra that there's going to be severe flooding because of the delay in these projects. But we have to do everything to alleviate destruction of property and loss of life as much as possible. But I've charged the Garrid Secretariat and the Hydrology Section and the Ministry to pay constant attention to make sure that all the projects that have been awarded under Garrid to make Accra resilient from flooding are speeded up as quickly as possible so that we can minimize the flooding. This is the Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill. That's the famous e-levy bill. I'll proceed to sign it. Okay, I've just given assent to the repeal of the famous e-levy bill. Now this is the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025 to remove withholding tax on winnings from lottery, betting, and games of chance. This is the famous betting tax repeal bill. And so I'll assent to it, 2nd April 2025. So betting tax is gone. Now this is the Emissions Tax Repeal Bill. So Emissions Levy Repeal Act 2025, emissions levy is gone. This is the Earmark Funds Capping and Realignment Bill. This is the bill that caps the GET Fund and National Health Insurance Levy and moves those resources into the Consolidated Fund. We promise that we'll take the capping off, we'll uncap them. And so this bill uncaps the GET Fund and the National Health Insurance Levy. So the Earmark Funds Capping and Realignment Amendment Bill has been assented to. So it means GET Fund and NHIL will receive the full amount of their levies. Promises delivered.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Well, good morning and thank you, as always, for choosing the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live from the studios of Pan-African Television in Abelinque, and of course, we are live on Pan-African Television on your TV sets. You can also watch us on Facebook, Pan-African Television, on YouTube, Pan-African Television. Of course, we are live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM within the Greater Accra Municipality. Of course, we are live on many other affiliate radio stations across the country. I'll share some with you as we go along in the show. I am Sena Nombo. It's another Saturday, and I welcome you to today's edition of the show. This morning, we are talking Trump's tariffs. At this point, he suspended the implementation of the tariff for every other country and has decided that now it is between him and China. So he imposes tariff, the Chinese replicate. He says that every other country is quote, and it's not something that you can say, but he said it. He said they are kissing his ass. So he's decided that he will let them and negotiate with them. We're talking about Ghana. We've had a meeting with the U.S. ambassador to try to understand exactly why is he even doing this in the first place, and then explore what to do. The president says this is the end to the rule-based trade system that we've gone by for many, many years, with Trump having taken these steps. So we'll talk about Ghana's response to the tariffs that were imposed and what the next steps should be. That's where we'll start from. And then we'll move to an issue that we've been discussing for some time. It's not 2 weeks since this issue has been raging. It's a matter of the allegations that were made by Reverend Itim Fojo. The allegations around 2 aircrafts. Now, the minority says he spoke on our behalf. You cannot be chasing after him because he spoke for the minority. There was an attempt by the NIB to pick him up so that he assists with investigations. That failed. The minority is now telling the NIB to go to the speaker, seek the permission of the speaker before they can get him to come before them and provide the concrete evidence he said he has of suspicious dealings that these aircrafts had when they were in Ghana. So we'll talk about that issue. And then we'll conclude with the John Mahama administration turned 3 months on Monday. We are asking, so far, so good? Well, do share your thoughts with us on all the issues that we are tabling and talking about this morning. Well, joining me in the studio for this discussion, first, Kwame Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Always wonderful to see him on a Saturday morning. And sitting to my left is former Member of Parliament for Tema Central, Ninoy Hansen Norte. I'm sure you saw the other name there. That name is problematic. Anyway, So his name is Ninoy Hansenote, just to simplify it for myself and for everyone. Member of Parliament, nice to see you this morning.
Pleasure meeting you as well.
Yeah.
I'm grateful
Yes.
for the opportunity to be on this all-important show in Ghana.
Thank you. And of course, we're expecting to be joined by the Deputy Majority Leader, former Deputy Minister for Trade, Deputy Minister for Finance, Kwekurike Segan, will join us. And then we'll also be joined by our good friend, Philip Landing. Mr. Philip Landing is a leading member of the Movement for Change to complete our panel for today. Once again, you are a big part of this show. Do share your thoughts. What do you think of the things we'll be discussing? There's a number that's currently displayed on the screen you can use to share your thoughts with us. You can also do it through either of the social media platforms, YouTube or Facebook. Let's start with the issue of Donald Trump and the tariffs. And I'll start from my left, interestingly. Honorable former Member of Parliament for Tema Central, Ninoy Hansenote. Good morning.
Good morning, Senior. And it's a pleasure being here. And good morning to our viewers.
It's a pleasure
and,
to have you.
Friends on social media as well. Donald Trump fired. And I don't know whether he's trying to pick up the pieces of his bullets or look for his shrapnel or to go after the gunpowder. I don't know what he's looking for. But he fired a big salvo just about a week and a half ago. And it has caused a lot of ripples around the world. Some people strangely have benefited from it. But the majority of the world has lost out and is not in favor of what he's done because, just as our president said, it has upended the global rules-based system that we all created for ourselves somewhere in 1995. Pre-World War, let's say post-World War, pre-World War II, we had countries and governments fighting or jostling over space or trying to, so we had colonial structures where the mother countries had access to their colonies as markets for their products. So you get Britain and all the British colonies that today form the Commonwealth were appendages of Britain, and therefore British companies were sending their goods to these markets: India, today's Bangladesh, Malaysia, Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa. It's a huge market. So it helped them to grow. And the French had a similar structure as well. They were doing that. The Dutch, all of them. Then through that Second World War, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the Second World War, we had new institutions created, including the GATT, which was called the General Agreement on Trades and Tariffs or something like that, which ran from 46 till about 1995, when we all came about with this World Trade Organization to help us solve the problem of trade in an amicable way. One of the underlying principles of the World Trade System that we created is what we call non-discrimination. And there are two principles under non-discrimination: MFN, Most Favored Nation principle, and then also what you call national treatment. So you treat other people's goods in your economy just like you treat theirs. National MFN, you treat your neighbor's goods the same way you treat your friend's goods. So that's how it is. So it gives access to the market. And these are rules that were built by the Bretton Woods institutions, led mainly by countries like the United States of America, because at that time they had control over manufacturing, technology, and the West, between themselves and Germany, Britain, and co. The rules that they set, countries like Ghana and the smaller African countries were, let me say, bulldozed to accept the rules as they are, because it's like a boxing match where everybody's fighting together, both heavyweights, welterweights. So the heavyweights will always defeat the welterweights and the featherweight or the super featherweights because they don't have the capacity. So countries like Ghana, Nigeria, we lost all our manufacturing. Why? Because the big boys were there. And if you quite remember, when we were growing up, all the television screens that you see were maybe Philips or Kenwood. They were all British brands. When you went to Togo, you see the French brands. Even the vehicles, They were all British vehicles or Western European vehicles, Opel and the rest. Whilst when they went to the French-speaking countries, it was Renault and Co. So these were the structures that were running, and it was in their favor. Countries like China and in Africa, Ethiopia, refused to join the WTO initially because they believed that they didn't have the capacity to compete favorably within the structures of the WTO. So they waited and developed their internal capacity. So when you go to a place like Ethiopia, every American business you can think about, there's a sister company in Ethiopia owned by Ethiopians. Okay. You find a Starbucks that is owned by Ethiopians. It's registered in their name. Every company you can think about is there. So that when an American Starbucks wants to come to Ethiopia, they would have to work with an Ethiopian existing Starbucks. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's what they did. The Chinese, on the other hand, also developed their internal capacity for manufacturing. Brought in a lot of technology from Germany, East Germany, West Germany, and developed their internal capacity for manufacturing because they had a unique selling point at that time of very cheap labor. So they capitalized on the ability to produce cheaply and present those products onto the market. That is what has saved them today, because they didn't join the WTO until 2001, when all of us had joined already. But by the time they joined, they had the capacity and could fight American manufacturing. The Americans, on the other hand, because they couldn't fight directly, tried to use African countries and some of the smaller countries around to fight the trade war and give us AGOA. We took AGOA, we swallowed it, but we didn't make use of it. I remember in Kufuor's government, he tried to create what you call the PSIs. It was all supposed to take advantage of the AGOA. And Ghanaian businessmen couldn't take advantage of it. We preferred to go and trade, go and import goods from other places, including used clothes and used cars, and or go to China and buy very cheap products, not understanding that it was going to cause us a problem in the future. So these are the things that I'm just trying to give a broad picture of the global trading system as it has been until now. So that is how we all came into the WTO, and the WTO had an effect on our economies. We, for example, I use food as an example. Everything on our plate of food comes from somewhere else because of WTO. The cooking oil comes from Malaysia or Indonesia. The tomato paste now comes from China, or used to come from Italy. The chicken comes from Brazil. Even the cutlery, maybe the only thing that comes from Ghana is the human being that's going to eat the food. The cutlery comes from China. The plates comes from China. Even if it's plastics, it comes from China. So it should tell you that we have not benefited at all from the structures that the Bretton Woods and Western institutions put together, which we found ourselves part of. That is the bane of the problem that Africa has faced under WTO. Trump, let me put it this way, the United States is now tasting their own medicine. The same prescriptions they gave us. Today, China has used the same rules to move its people out of poverty into a certain stage of life that they're able to literally fight the United States on the trade theft or on the trade grounds, and that is what Donald Trump is trying to forestall. What is he trying to achieve? What he's trying to achieve is to bring back manufacturing to the United States. That's what he says. Or that is the end goal that he wants to achieve. But forgetting that the ecosystem that it takes to build manufacturing is no longer there in the United States. The infrastructure that you need to build that manufacturing base is no longer there. If you say you want to, do cheap manufacturing, the labor, you can pay maybe a Chinese $3 an hour, but you cannot pay an American $3 an hour. You can pay a Bangladeshi $1.50 an hour, but you cannot pay an American $1.50 an hour. You won't get the people to work. You won't get the manpower does not exist in the United States to deal with some of these things. So bringing it back home to Ghana, it is two elephants that are fighting. The United States and China that are fighting for dominance of the global trading system. If you take shipbuilding, 20 years ago, ships were built mainly in Japan, South Korea, and the United States. Yesterday, I was checking some statistics, and I saw that the shipbuilding alone, China produces 80% of the ships that are built in the world now. All the rest of the shipbuilders you can think about form just about 20% of the shipbuilding capacity in the world. So it should tell you something. All the trade, the only thing that China is losing out in America today would be access to the American market. But that is just about 15% of the Chinese economy. It affects about 15%. So it tells you that China has about 85% of its market to the world. And rightly so. If you look at Ghana, look at our trade deficit with China and compare that to our trade deficit with the United States. It tells you that we trade more with China than we trade with the United States. One other thing I believe that Trump is trying to achieve is to subtly devalue the United States currency so that it will make American goods cheaper, so that those who are holding American currency as a store of value will lose out together with America. But he cannot do it overnight, so it is slow. And after his tariffs, he says he suspended them. Why has he suspended them? He's saying that we are, excuse my French, kissing his ass. But the reality is that he has to negotiate with so many countries, and all that everybody is asking for might be difficult for the United States to give. Because some countries are today stronger than they were 20 years ago, like India. So India might say, okay, you know what, we used to have 15%, 20%, but today we think we need more than what you are giving us. We think we contribute more to the world than you are giving us. So the dynamics have changed drastically. What we as Ghanaians, or as I expect our government to do, is to take advantage of the opportunity and develop Ghanaian industry. Develop Ghanaian industry. That is the only way forward. Every problem that we face economically in terms of our capacity, whether it's even inflation, whether it is devaluation of our currency, is because we don't produce enough. We don't produce enough. I'm not saying produce enough for just your consumption, but produce for exports. The West African market alone is over 340 million. Our value may be small in terms of, or low compared to the United States, because we don't consume that much here compared to the United States. However, I believe that we would only survive this fight if we put ourselves together. We have the AFTA framework. We have other frameworks in Africa. We have our non-aligned movement. We have our South-South cooperation that we have to, dive in and dip in, take advantage of our position in Africa, in the eyes of our other African countries and our African brothers, and then build the capacity of the Ghanaian industrialists so that they become our, what we call, national champions. Just as I explained earlier on, it's like a boxing match. In that boxing match, if you don't have your own Mike Tyson's and your own equivalent, so let's say Ikotis and your own Azuma Nelson's, how do you fight in the match, in the ring? You cannot go with amateur boxers. So you have to build the capacity of your industries. They are your fighters. It is not your army. You don't have that capacity to go and fight at that level. So a country like Singapore is not happy at all. And you should listen to what their Prime Minister said. He says that no, everything has changed because Singapore has no resources. All their resources is in manufacturing or investment in manufacturing bases and service provision. They have what they call Temasek, and if you look at the structure of Temasek and you see the investments they have around the world, it's all manufacturing. You might see a Chinese company, but the funding is coming from even some of the big companies that are working in Ghana, Olam and Co. Their mother companies are Singaporean. So for them, it's a big problem. If Olam is exporting goods from Ghana to the United States, they benefit. At the end of the day, Ghana will take their taxes, but Singapore as a government will also benefit from it. So for them, it is very strategic. So you should understand the dynamics of what is happening. So we also have to now take advantage of the opportunity and build ourselves. A population of 1.2 billion. The next, by 2050, it is projected that Africa will have the youngest population in the world, the biggest consumer base in the world. So Ghana can take advantage of it. Luckily, God has blessed us with enough resources. Water. Look at the water that flows from Akosombo into the sea every day. Whenever I go there, I shudder. I'm like, this volume of water? When you go to other countries, people are negotiating for the water. They are going to war because of water. Our water is going into the sea, running into the sea like drain water. It just runs into the sea. Go to between India and Bangladesh, they are fighting over water. The volume of water that is spilled every month, every year, is negotiated. The time, all the way to the time that it will be spilled. Because if you spill it earlier, it might cause flooding in their country or destroy their cropping season. Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia are fighting over the Nile and how to share the resources of the Nile, especially the water flow. So we have so much advantage that I expect the NDC government, led by His Excellency John Mahama, to push that industrialization drive. That is the only solution, whether it's agro-processing, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's clothing and textiles. That is the way to go. And we shouldn't only see it as a problem, but we should also see it as an opportunity that we will deepen our industrial base so that we will have our national champions who can fight on our behalf in this ever-changing world, or this fluid situation that we find ourselves in. It's a very fluid situation because it's like somebody taking over from, when you watch these National Geographic channels, you see lions fighting over turf. When you see an old dying lion, it doesn't die off or run away. It puts up a fight, a very strong fight, even though it's an old, weak lion. And sometimes they succeed. But most often times, the younger kid on the block takes over the pride or takes over the space. And I see that is what is happening. It is interesting that it's happening in our lifetimes, that we are actually seeing a certain change of the world order. And I think that we that have been given the opportunity to serve as leaders of this country must also contribute our quota in shaping that agenda so that we will come out better. Many countries came out better in 1922 when the Ottoman Empire was collapsing and the new world order was coming up. The countries like Saudi Arabia that you see today, the UAEs, the Turkey that you see today, they all came out or were born out of the collapse of the Ottoman Empire when the new order was taken over. So we also have to strategize so that we take advantage of the opportunity and then come out positively at the end of the day. And I believe that if we all put our shoulder to the wheel, we shall come out victorious, or we can take advantage of the opportunity that this fluid situation presents itself. So maybe to end it here, I think I saw something from the trade minister, the lady Elizabeth. She's a very competent woman. I mean, I worked with her in Parliament, so I know her very well. And I think she has it straight on, because she was saying that she was going to put a package together to support industrialization or to support industry. And she spelled out the programs that the government is trying to achieve, 24-hour economy and a few other things, which I thought are laudable. I mean, insofar as we will create jobs here, we will create manufacturing here, I support the program. So we'll keep pushing the government to deliver on that one as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, if you just join us, the mother of all talk shows, we are talking about the implications of the imposition of a 10% tariff on Ghana. He is of the opinion that we need to take advantage of it. I saw Mr. Philip Landing nodding his head whilst you were talking, but give me a minute, and I'll come back. I'll come back to you because we'll be joined by the Deputy Majority Leader, George Kweku Sagan. He is a former Deputy Minister for Trade and Finance. Those were the two ministries that were part of the delegation that met the U.S. ambassador. And also, you were also ranking member on the Trade Committee.
Yes, I was deputy ranking from stage.
Oh, great. So let's listen to him, his thoughts, then I'll come to Mr. Philip.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, and good morning to my colleagues here. I keep hearing the word a wake-up call. And I'm surprised we still haven't woken up. You know, because this 10% tariffs, there's actually a much wider implication than just the 10% slapped on Ghana, which for me is even more dangerous than the 10% itself. Most of the goods that we send from here, you know, that is we export to the United States, which is actually not much, comes under the AGOA, you know, framework. I think we signed our first AGOA somewhere around 2005, the Kufuor's regime. Renewed 10 years later, 215 when I was a deputy minister, where my minister, Dr. Kosfi Gabra, had to renew it. 10 years later, which is 2025 now, so we've been under AGOA for 20 years. And if you sit down and look at the benefits that we've had on the AGOA as a result of, you know, trade surplus or trade benefit, it's actually close to zero. We have not taken advantage of it. The first 10 years, we didn't take any advantage. We didn't do any proper review of it. We signed it again in 2015, and then 2025. I think it ends in September of this year. It was actually very likely that AGOA would have been cancelled and we will not get back on AGOA, because the Americans were actually using AGOA for their own purposes in terms of who qualifies and who doesn't, human rights issues and other things. So it was a way of controlling us, that if you behave yourself, then you'll be in AGOA. If you don't, you have human rights issues and all that, you're going to have challenges. I don't know for sure, but very likely that if Trump had not won the election and Kamala Harris did, we probably still would be in the same situation. Not through tariffs, but through cancellation of AGOA, because we were not, in their mind, conforming to the LGBTQ and all that, and that is a human, you know, rights issue. So either way, we were going to be here, but we never woke up. And we are talking about waking up now, which I know will be a lip service for a while, and we'll still go to sleep again until something else hits us. The things that they put, they did it quite cleverly, and not the waking up from this, what I've just said, but also from Trump himself. Trump won was a signal of what Trump is likely to do if he gets a chance to come back again. What is happening in the world at the moment that is being caused by Trump is something we all knew, that if Trump should get a second chance, this is what is going to happen. He is an inward-looking president. He is a protectionist. He talks about, that's what America First is all about, looking inwardly, and doesn't really care about anything else. The problem is globalization, which came somewhere in the 90s, was actually a promotion of the Americans. Yeah. They came up with this idea of globalization, which actually was not benefiting us because we were not producing anything. Therefore, even if they give you the opportunity to send things to their country, you have nothing to send. And therefore, they could dump their stuff on your country. And we went through that. Now, there comes China. Americans have now realized that globalization is bad, because the Chinese are flooding their market with things that they cannot respond. You know, with a 35% of Chinese export, about 15% of it goes to the United States. That is quite significant. When you look on the other side, it's far, far less than that, not even maybe 5%. So that tells you that the Chinese are making more money from the Americans than Americans are getting. So the trade, there will definitely be a trade deficit. And that is what has snowballed into America's debt huge debt that they have now, they've realized that if we don't do something about this debt, we are actually going to have a serious problem. Now, what is the impact on the 10% on us if we should go ahead? Not much, but something will happen. There could be job losses, not as a result of the 10% slapped on us, but as a result of the much bigger tariffs globally. Because if Chinese are not able to send as much goods to the United States, or the demand in America goes down as a result of hiking prices, then obviously the demand of particular goods will go down, which means that there will be job losses. Because if your factories, if you have them, are not producing enough, or not that they are not producing enough, but there's no demand for that production, then there's going to be a problem. And that will eventually happen. The 10% itself is not really a big deal. Because what they did do, if you look at how they've done it, is that there are certain products that are actually exempted from this 10%. And these are the products you call capital good products that the Americans need, the semiconductors and all that they need to basically build their manufacturing. What they are taxing is the things that we send out there, the apparels and all those things, which comes on the AGOA. As I said, either way, AGOA would have ended September. The tariffs probably has come early to this. But I hope we save the wake-up call for the final time, and hopefully we do wake up. What Trump has done, apart from the tariff, don't forget about these, what is it called, U.S. aid stuff.
Yes.
You know, we are a country that are talking about waking up, industrializing, we've never done. In the last 8 years, we've been talking about, what is it called, what is it, Beyond
Ghana
Aid?
Beyond Aid.
Ghana Beyond Aid. We've sat down for almost a decade. We've done nothing about it. They take about $150 million and we are crying. That is not Ghana Beyond Aid. We haven't, gone. We need to go beyond Ghana Beyond Debt, and then we'll go beyond Ghana Beyond, that. So the impact of 10% itself is not much of a problem, though it will affect us. But there are certain things we've talked about over and over. When you look at the things that we send, Americans don't send, a lot to us anyway. Those who don't send a lot to us, we send a lot. So if we are to reciprocate, like the Chinese have done, because there are a lot of Chinese goods, a lot of American goods. If they slam 10% tariffs on us, if you want to do same, what are you going to slap those tariffs on? Because they don't even exist. We don't have them. So we are always going to be the loser. One of the things we have said that we need to do so we don't find ourselves in this situation. This is actually closer to COVID, though a different pandemic. And the same issues you have, trade disruptions, supply chain disruptions, we're going to be experiencing all this. One of the things that will also affect us, as I said, the 10% itself is small, it's actually dumping of more goods in our market. Because if the demand in America goes down and they are not able to send more of their stuff, they will have to find a market. And those things will be dumped here. That will actually make us not competitive. Because the things that will come here, even if we become a manufacturing economy, we can't compete on price until we do certain things, make sure that we are supporting our industries. Industrialization, we know, is the way to go. We just haven't done much about it. Because the things we need for industrialization itself to work is non-existent. You cannot, without energy, cheaper energy, you cannot industrialize anywhere. So you may want to do, whatever you want to call it, 1D, 1F or whatever. If the ingredient for that industrialization itself is not there, the 1D, 1F is just a methodology or an idea on how you want to do industrialization. But the NDC were doing industrialization in another name, MPP industrialization in another name. Even what is it called, 24-hour economy. It's an industrialization just with another name. It's all about industrialization, which we have not been able to achieve. So dumping of goods, for me, is even more serious than the 10% that they put on us. Because it will disable us and make us completely, you know, not be able to compete. And we will continue to suffer. But I don't think Trump should surprise anyone. Whatever Trump does, we knew he was going to do it. There's more to come. You know, whether people are expelled from the United States and whether a lot of things are being done, these are things we expected Trump to do. You know, this whole thing about the, you know, the global, you know, rule system that was created, that's what is called industrialization. And now the Americans have realized that industrialization is going to hurt us. Therefore, we should begin to look inwardly and stop this idea of, you know, multilateralism and all that, and think about America. What they want to do is to reduce their debts and their deficit. And the way to do it is this. This is not sustainable. Trade war is not sustainable. Americans cannot carry this through forever. The Chinese cannot. The Chinese have already signaled that they won't go beyond 125% that they have indicated. That obviously tells you that they are beginning to put up a white flag that, you know, we surrender. And of course, talks will happen. What Trump wants out of this is to be able to reduce his debt. That's all Trump wants. And his deficit. And things that people are not paying enough and they are taking their dollars. I mean, treasury bills in America are owned by the Chinese. Yeah. Because they sell their goods to the Americans, take the Americans' own money to buy their own asset. And Americans have realized that if we continue, we are not the target at all. I hear he's been suspended or something. Yeah. We are not the target. He just had to do this to make sure that he's being fair. But we are not the target. The target is China. They don't want Chinese to overtake them. So they've got to make sure not to overtake them, also not to owe more money. They would have done it two ways. Either they do trade war with the Chinese or actually do a physical war. So this is the lesson of the two. If that doesn't work, because they can't continue to be enslaved to the Chinese. So this is what it is. We just happened to be on a path and we became a victim. And we ourselves, we have not prepared ourselves to be able to, you know, sort of stand some of these things when they happen. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in. And for me, going to talk to the American ambassador is good, but I tell you what, you do very little. The American ambassador probably doesn't even know what, you know, is going on up there. You know, it's good to talk to them, that's diplomacy and all that. But we've got to actually take the bull by the horn ourselves and try and change certain things rather than always getting up to go and negotiate, and negotiation from a position of weakness. Every negotiation we do is done from a position of weakness. We've never gone into any negotiation that AGOA was done from a position of weakness. We got it, we never did anything with it because we were not producing. I think we did a bit with the garment and uppers. Yeah. There was an excellent idea by President Kufuor then with this PSIs or whatever, yeah. But we were not able to continue it. Private sector itself were looking elsewhere. At the same time was the time that people have become interested in going to China to bring goods rather than to produce them. Can you imagine a country like Ghana today? I was having a chat the other day. We don't produce a grain of sugar in this country. A country like Uganda, slightly bigger than Ghana, but not much, maybe about a couple of million. They have 20, if they haven't added more, sugar factories in Uganda. 20. Ghana, we have none, not a single one. We import all the sugar, the 500 million or whatever. So if Trump puts a stop on sugar, we'll be in trouble. So this is the situation we find ourselves in. So the wake-up call, yes, but this should be the last wake-up call in a lot of things that we have woken ourselves, with our alarm and still go to sleep. We get up, put the alarm off and go to sleep until the next thing comes, and then we are running around. We are firefighting. We are firefighting in this economy. What we do most is firefight on what is going on. So that's my take on the tariff situation. And the 10% should not worry you, because there's much bigger stuff. The 10% is nothing. We don't really send much to America to suffer from, the 10% that I mean, before AGOA, we were paying some tariffs on goods to the United States, and we were indifferent. When we had AGOA that we were not paying, we're still indifferent. So it means that whichever way, 10% tax or not, AGOA or not, we need to wake up and try to address the fundamental problems that we have in our economy and do the things that we do best. I mean, for instance, if you take cocoa, we don't send much cocoa to the United States. In fact, to Switzerland. It's Switzerland that processes the chocolate that sends to the United States. When you look at the value chain of the cocoa value chain, we are infinitesimal. We don't earn much. Yet we are one of the largest producers, the second largest producer of cocoa in the world. But in terms of the revenue from the value chain, we get very little of it. These are the things that we have to begin to change. So it's not our cocoa tariff that is slapped on us that is going to cause us problem, but rather the Switzerland chocolate that is sent to the United States, which is going to have tariffs, which will lower demand in the United States and invariably reduce the Swiss people from buying cocoa from us. Those are the things that we need to worry about.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, like I said, we were talking about the implications of the 10% tariff. Very interesting view from Honorable Kwekurike Sagan. Anyway, let me now come to Ambassador. I was going to... Yes. But frankly, the person whose name came to mind, and that's quite a sad. I will come to that. I'll come to that anyway. Come to that subsequently. Mr. Lando.
Yes, thank you, and good morning. Good morning, and good morning. Comrade Prissy. I think, from the historical developments gave and the additional elaboration that we got from Honorable Kwekurike towards the Deputy Minister of Trade. I mean, it gives us a very clear situation of exactly where we are as a country. I think in all this, one thing that has really come out is our total unpreparedness for this current situation. A situation that is not entirely something that has come out of it. Yes, like we're just being told. In the first term of Trump, he gave indications of what he would want to do. He didn't have enough time, he wasn't able to do all of it. We saw how strongly he appeared to be wanting to come back and was indicated, and the indications were that he was coming back. The only country in the world that I get the sense are very ready to face him squarely is China. China anticipated that this was a likely action that Trump would undertake. Maybe not so soon, but it's something that they had envisaged. So when it happened, it didn't hit China the way it hit many other countries of the world. And the Chinese have also demonstrated a certain resilience that they are prepared to face America. Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump today is telling everybody that, yes, the rest of us happen to be collateral damage. But the main target of his tariffs is China. I don't believe so. He's only saying this for the convenience of the moment. He was equally targeting Canada, targeting Mexico, targeting Europe. He wanted to weaken all these countries as a way of building up America. he did it from a purely theoretical point of view, which maybe when you work it out on paper, might make sense. But the reality of the situation and the consequences of some of his actions and the way he went about it, the responses to the stock markets and things like that, has made him begin to rethink. And I will not agree that China indicating that they are not going to go further than the 125% increase is like a white flag. No. Because beyond that, it doesn't make any sense. And already, even at the current rate, America has jacked theirs to 145%. Even at the 125%, America is still going to suffer heavily. Yes, we're talking about industrialization. But industrialization, yes, we've always wanted to industrialize. And it's the same mistake Trump himself is making. He cannot assume that by trying to limit imports by raising tariffs, he is immediately going to have a result where factories are going to spring up in America. Yes, they have the infrastructure, they have the resources, they have everything, the logistical arrangements in place for factories to come up. But in all practicality, factories can't just spring up. Yes, you can get prefab structures and put up a factory, you can order machines, but that isn't how factories come up. So it is not going to happen the way he thinks it's going to happen. And in the short term, the Americans are going to suffer, like they've already beginning to suffer. And they are suffering because of higher prices as a result of tariffs. Even before the tariffs has kicked in, all the shops were complaining. There was a rush on goods because some of the goods on the shelves were goods that came into the country before the tariffs kicked in. So people were in a hurry to buy and hoard within their means until the next set of imports will come at higher prices. And surveys were being done. That you go into a shop and 80% of the things in the shops are either from China or have some major Chinese component, and as a result will face the tariffs. So America is going to go through these problems. But from our side, yes, the wake-up call is for us to seriously look at industrialization. I think our problem has been that in industrialization, we want to do like big industries in one go. I think that we should go the way India went about its industrialization, where there's a fundamental national policy to add value to the simplest items. Then you give a birth to cottage industry, and that's how it starts. It becomes the basis. It becomes a generic development. But like we did in previous situations where, yes, we put up a big factory, like in garments. Yes, initially garments was doing well. But what happened? Ghana wasn't the only country benefiting from the garments. Bangladesh. Mauritius. So they were able to overtake Ghana. So then we found out that our efforts were not getting anywhere. So we should begin to look carefully. So we don't have the muscles, like the analogy you gave about the boxing. You can't go into a heavyweight contest when you're a middleweight. And so let us start from where we can. Let us get our rural communities. First of all, we must even boost agriculture. Then have a fundamental situation where people begin to add value, help push out the situation where we have a national board for small scale industries. I don't know exactly how they are functioning, but I would have thought that they would be in a position, and of course I know we have business resource centers built all over the place, but there must be a national conscious effort to try and get people or Ghanaian players to begin to, add value, starting from agriculture. Our agriculture products. Start just adding value. You lower wastage in the markets. It starts from a basic fundamental. That's how China developed. China didn't start by putting up, huge. They started on a very simple basis and they built up on it. And And with a national commitment, the development is rapid. So I believe that we must use this situation, and this has become a wake-up call, yes, not just for Ghana, but for countries. Everybody's now beginning to ask themselves, but do we have to export to America? If America don't slap 10% on us, can't we export our goods to another country? So we are now looking at the fact that if other countries can import our stuff, why don't we sell to them? America has been a very attractive market because, one, they have the purchasing power, and you can make probably much more money if you export to America. So everybody has been targeting America because it's fertile. It's a very fertile market that people know that if they send their goods there, they can make money. But this is an opportunity for us. And another thing about it is that even the leadership of America right now under Donald Trump, I mean, the man is so unpredictable that you can never be sure. Even if we assume there's 10% and we quickly work around 10%, you never know what he's going to say tomorrow. I mean, if one reaction by a certain head of state somewhere can make him decide to show, he can decide tomorrow to just change things. The man has demonstrated that he's so unpredictable that you can never, and that is another thing that's going to hurt America. That inconsistency is something that is an important requirement for every market. Predictability and careful readings of development. So this 10% that has been slapped on us is something that we should use as an opportunity and collaborate with, first of all, in the sub-region and our neighbors as our first point of call. A couple of days ago, I was watching that the Africa Exim Bank has opened Africa Trade Center in Nigeria, in Abuja. The Nigerians are, they have also anticipated this, and the Nigerians are already 2 steps ahead of us. If I say 2 steps ahead of us, we haven't even taken a step. They are already taking the steps. And they are making conscious efforts to address the situation. They don't want to find themselves, in a disadvantaged situation at all. And this is the kind of attitude that we need to adopt. And that needs a certain political energy, a political drive. Because at the end of the day, if you put the measures in place, you put the necessary incentives and taxes and policies, and you leave it at that, you will not get the required result. It needs political push, leadership to attain what we want to attain. So I think that this 10%, and like Honorable Kweku was telling us, the implications are wide. Why? The dumping that's going to come. Because other countries too are also finding ways to solve it. This is a fight that has affected everybody. So everybody too is trying to find ways to better their own situation. So if you sit back, you will be the total loser. There's a dumping that will come. The Chinese will already be complaining about Chinese dumping. They are going to look for other markets because the American market takes, in as much as only 15%. It's still a heavy volume. All the other countries are going to start looking for other places. So if we don't move up and we don't have the political will definite to push it, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for us. So it is an opportunity that has arisen. How we will fare at the end of the day will depend on us. And us means the leadership, the kind of leadership that will be provided, the opportunities that will be provided, that will push things to close and make sure that it doesn't hit us the way it's hitting us. Otherwise, I think that's too bad.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And having said that, I think there's one man who's been given the task of ensuring that we accelerate exports development. So I think Mr. Guzitano. Yes. He has a whole office dedicated to that, to develop the framework, an accelerated export development program, and a 24-hour economy. Yeah. Both of them are currently on his table. He's supposed to develop the framework for that. Anyway, before I come to your comments, let me first listen to Kwesi prior to that. I'll come and read the comments that you are sharing on the discussion, the very first discussion. Mr. Pratt?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the problem that the world faces today cannot be resolved by any scheme under a 24-hour project. I mean, if you begin to look at it from that perspective, there's a clear indication that you don't understand what is happening in the world. And I would explain. You see, what is happening simply is that the United States of America is an empire in decline. That's what is happening. Simply put, the United States of America is a huge empire whose time has come. It's in decline and it's struggling for survival. Look, it is, if you go into history, such developments have led to wars. It led to the First World War. It led to the Second World War. It actually became the impetus for the transatlantic slave trade and became the impetus for colonialism. And then it became the condition which led to the craving for a new form of colonialism, which Nkrumah described as neocolonialism. That is what is happening. Okay? Now, if you take the United States of America today, it is perhaps the most indebted nation in the world. The national debt of the United States of America is grown beyond $3 trillion and is moving like a hurricane to $4 trillion. That is what the U.S. is today. Heavily indebted. Now, if you look at the United States of America today, look at the U.S. today, all of its national infrastructure is collapsing. A recent study shows that they have to redo most of their bridges. Their roads are bad. The railway system is in shambles. I mean, if you compare the railway system in the United States to the railway system in China, I mean, you would think that one is in the 20th century and one is in the 1st century. This is the reality. Today, in all the states of the United States of America, hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, cannot feed themselves. They cannot buy food and eat. They are starving. There are soup kitchens in New York, in California, even in California, which we glorify. You know, California for us is the center of the movies and so on. There are people in California who are homeless, who cannot feed themselves, and so on. The crime rate in the United States of America is rising. Its military and its equipment is becoming obsolete. You understand? So this is an empire in deep, deep crisis, and is struggling for survival and is struggling for relevance. Now, the problem we are facing is that this empire in decline, this huge empire which is in decline, has decided that its efforts to revive itself, to become relevant and so on, should be led by a president called Donald Trump, who is not friendly with logic. This is one of the main problems. The people of the United States of America have decided that their leader to overcome this problem should be somebody who finds thinking too difficult an exercise. That's number one. Number two, they've elected a president who, unfortunately, I mean, science means absolutely nothing to him. And what he's doing defies economic science. I'm sure that he doesn't even accept that the laws of gravity exist. There's a guy who is challenging, you know, vaccination as well. I mean, this is a guy who is completely lost. That's the man they've elected as their president. Now, this chap, Donald Trump, comes into office, and the slogan is important. Listen to the slogan. Make America great again. Very important slogan. In that slogan is the admission that America is no longer great. In that slogan is a clear admission that America is no longer great. Now, to him, how does America become great? Donald Trump proposes that the whole world has been cheating the United States of America. That's the basis of his argument. Everybody in the world is a cheat, including Botswana. That all of us have conspired to cheat the United States of America. And therefore, the United States of America should take measures in order to force us to pay for the cheating that we have been cheating America over the last couple of centuries. And this doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense at all. Donald Trump includes Ghana in the countries which have been cheating the United States of America. Why? If history doesn't teach us anything at all, it teaches us about the transatlantic slave trade, about how our forebears were captured as beasts of burden to work for hundreds of years without pay, leading to the accumulation which makes capitalism possible in the United States of America. Donald Trump doesn't see that. He doesn't see that at all. So if you're looking at the relationship between Ghana and the United States of America, it is Ghana which has been cheated over the years. Cheated over the years. If you're looking at the relationship between us and the United States of America, you can also not ignore the fact that Ghana today is at where it is because the United States of America made an intervention in our country. That on February 24, 1966, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America overthrew the government of Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The purpose of overthrowing Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was to make sure that we return to the days of slavery. It's clear. If you read the declassified documents of the Central Intelligence Agency on the overthrow of Nkrumah, it is clear. Nkrumah was overthrown, one, because he was making the African too politically conscious. That was one. He was overthrown because Ghana had embarked upon an industrialization program which was delinking our economy from the metropolitan economy. Ghana was building a self-reliant national economy, which was not in the interest of the United States of America and so on. So here again, we became victims of the United States of America and not people who were cheating the United States of America. Now, listen very carefully. The United States of America is suffering from a balance of trade deficit. You understand? It is not exporting enough. So there's a deficit. Now, how do you correct that deficit? In Donald Trump's mind, and that's a very small mind, you understand? In Donald Trump's mind, the way to correct this deficit is just to slap tariffs, taxes, on goods coming into the United States of America. And he thinks that by so doing, he'll be able to attract manufacturers from China and other places to come back to the United States of America so that the United States of America can produce more and claw back what, in his view, is a fair share of world trade. But you see, things don't work that way today. If the United States of America imposed 10,000% tariffs on the world, manufacturing is not coming back to the United States of America. It is not possible. First of all, I've already discussed the infrastructural problem that the US has. It's a major hindrance to production and industrialization. Yes, sir. But beyond that, I mean, a friend of mine was telling me about the cost of producing a Nike sneakers. Why? In China, you can actually produce a Nike sneakers for about $10 or so. That same sneakers, under the current conditions, if it's produced in the United States of America, will cost about $1,000. So where is the competition? Why? Factories in the United States of America did not move to China for fun. They moved to China because it was possible for them to produce the goods that they were producing in the United States of America at about 10% cost. That's why they moved to China. That's why they moved to Taiwan and other places and so on. So for manufacturing to return to the United States of America, there are conditions in the United States of America which need to change, not tariffs. And those conditions are not changing. Those conditions cannot be changed by the Trump administration. So that's where we are. Now, this morning, I must confess, I've been most impressed by my comrade and friend, former Deputy Minister of Trade, and currently Deputy Minority Leader. Majority Leader, sorry. Majority Leader. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. I mean, the statement he made about our meeting with the U.S. ambassador is the truth. For all we know, this U.S. ambassador cannot even understand her own government. And I'm honest about it. This U.S. ambassador was appointed under Biden. Yeah. And there are indications that she has substantial disagreements with the Trump administration and the way she's going about things and so on. You understand? She herself is baffled by the developments in her own country. So if you go and sit with her in a meeting, what are you doing? You call, what is her name? Something Palmer, I suppose. Palmer, yeah. Yeah, you call her to a meeting and say, explain why the U.S. has imposed a 10% tariff on Ghana. She doesn't know. She has no answers. You understand? And I was shocked at the statement which was issued after the meeting. I'm sure all of you read that statement. So I'm sure you read that statement. So I read that statement and I said, why is the interest of Ghana in this statement? The statement starts by saying that, oh, we met the U.S. ambassador to ask for explanations about what's happening and so on. She explained to us that the action was not motivated by malice. Whoa. And she also explained to us that the action would not affect oil and gas. So, well, it may have implications for Agua, but we need more clarification and so on. End of statement. I don't know. And because of my criticism of this statement, my brother, for about 5 days, none of my friends in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will answer my call. But this is a genuine criticism. That meeting, what was it intended to achieve? And what did it achieve? You see, I was of the view that yes, Trump has imposed a 10% tariff on Ghana. I agree with what all the other panelists have said about what we should do in order to minimize or override the impact of the tariff. But most importantly, we need to send a signal to the bully that there's a cost to pay for bullying. And then anybody who has studied psychology would understand that the only language that the bully understands that frightens the bully is for the bully to know that there are consequences for his actions. That's the only language. And this is science. You understand? And then I hear people say that, but how can Ghana fight the US? It's a small country of 32 million people. What do you have? Ghana cannot fight the US. So let's go and beg. And so I'm sure you've all heard that. And it shocks me to the marrow. So therefore, the solution which is put forward is some bilateral negotiations with the Trump administration. You see, negotiations occur where there are two parties at the table who can give and take. When you sit around the table and only one party can give, it is not negotiation. When you sit at the table and only one party can take, it is not negotiation. That is a meeting for surrender. A meeting for surrender. The only negotiations, the only thing which can be called negotiation is where the two parties, everybody can give and everybody can take. That is what is called negotiation. So those who are saying that we are so weak, we can't bargain, we can't do anything, what they are actually telling us is that we should surrender to the bully and take the insults and humiliation from the bully. That is not what Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah taught us. Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah taught us how to fight and how to win and how to leverage all of our strength in order to achieve victory. And Ghana has strength. We have serious strength. One, as we sit here, Ghana is hosting the forward operating base of the Africa Command of the US Army. I mean, only last week, a friend of mine in Nigeria, who is a lawyer and so on, did an analysis of this military base. And I was so ashamed reading it. He says it's capitulation, it's surrender, it's going back to slavery and so on. And he's right. You have signed an agreement with the United States of America which says that when US soldiers come to Ghana and they destroy Ghanaian property, you will not go to court. You cannot prosecute them. You will not go to court. You cannot even go to court with a civil suit to claim compensation. That's the agreement we have signed with them. You have signed an agreement with them which says that radio gold, if you want to use our frequencies, you pay for it. If the United States of America wants to use our frequencies, they don't pay for it, it's free. That's the agreement we have signed with them. We have signed an agreement with the United States of America, which makes a US soldier, a private soldier in the US Army, more privileged than the US ambassador. Because the private soldier in the US Army, when he's coming into this country, does not need a visa. All he needs is his ID card. He does not even need a passport. When the US ambassador is coming into Ghana, she needs a passport, she needs a visa. In fact, even before she comes as ambassador, they need to send an agreement which has to be approved by the government of Ghana. That's the agreement we have signed. We have signed an agreement with the United States of America, who says that when US soldiers are coming into Ghana, they don't have to go through customs examination. No customs examination, nothing. They walk into Ghana as if they are walking into their bedrooms. You have signed an agreement with the United States of America who says that when they are bringing things into a country and it is taxed military, they don't pay taxes. Not just that they are not subject to customs examination, they don't even pay taxes at all, and so on. And who says that an forward operating base is for the production of sugar or tinapa? Who says that? A forward operating base for any military is a killing factory. It's a factory for killing. You understand? Now, why is Ghana a forward operating base? Clearly, the U.S. has intentions in our sub-region, that is West Africa, has intentions for the whole of Africa, and has intentions for the world, and we are a key part of the realization of that intention. Now, it is important not just to look at this forward operating base in isolation. You see, when Bush won elections and became president of the United States of America in 2001, Bush set up what became known as the Cheney Committee. And the Cheney Committee produced the Cheney Report. Dick Cheney was the Secretary of State at the time, and they produced the Cheney Report. Now, you go to the net. I mean, these days it's very easy. Go to the net. The Cheney Report is available on the net. The Cheney Report said very clearly, very, very clearly, that the U.S. has expanding interest in West Africa. And that all supply from West Asia and so on was no longer, reliable because of the belligerence of countries like Iran and so on, okay? And that West Africa's production of energy, oil, gas mainly, was expanding. So the U.S. should shift its attention to West Africa if it has to solve its energy needs. And that the U.S., if need be, ought to use military force in order to guarantee its interest in West Africa. Read the Cheney Report. So if you are sitting down in Ghana as president, or member of parliament, or whatever, and they bring this defense agreement to you in parliament, and you approve it, you are a traitor to the interest of Ghana. And that is why we resisted firmly this defense pact, which was approved by the Akufo-Addo regime. We resisted it because of its implications for Ghana and its implications for Africa and the world. But you see, this is a strength that we have. This is a strength which goes beyond tariff. It's a strategic interest of the U.S. So it's a bargaining chip. They want to impose 10% tariffs on us, fine, but remove your military base. That's strength. That's power. No problem. 10%, take it to 50. But remove your military base and let's see how the U.S. will react. Not just that. I mean, last year, somewhere between November and December, NATO made a request to 3 governments in West Africa. One, the government of Ghana, the government of Benin, and the government of La Côte d'Ivoire, for space to establish drone bases. Is that not strength? Tell me that that is not strength. They want to establish their drone bases here. The U.S. had its largest drone base in the world in Niger. Is it Niger? Yes, Niger. They've been kicked out. So they have no drone base in the sub-region. They are looking for a place to establish their drone base. They've come to us. They are begging us for permission to establish a drone base. Is that not strength? Tell me that this is not strength. Now, not just that. I mean, as for our strength, Ghana, history tells us that Ghana was the torchbearer of the national liberation struggle in Africa. There's no country in Africa that you go to where Ghana is not respected because of the role it played in the liberation of that country. In fact, the largest statue of Kwame Nkrumah is not in Ghana. It's in Mali, it's in Bamako. There's nowhere that you go where their most prominent streets and so on are not named after Kwame Nkrumah. That is strength. That is strength. You understand? I was in Nairobi. Their most prominent street is named after Kwame Nkrumah. That is what is called in diplomacy soft power. But soft power sometimes is even more important than hardcore power. And we have the soft power. Okay? So Ghana's voice is huge. Ghana is able to punch above its weight. That is power. That is strength, which we can use, and so on. But importantly, we are a member of the African Union, a union of about 56 states, and so on. We have leverage there. That is strength. Beyond that, we are a member of the non-aligned movement. That is strength. We belong to many other institutions and organizations, even the UN. That is why we have a permanent mission in the UN. That is strength. That mission in the UN, if it's acting properly, organizing properly, that is strength. Imagine that in the UN General Assembly, over the last 10 years or so, Cuba has dominated. Cuba. And you know what Cuba is? An island state of 11 million people with no resources. In fact, Cuba for a large part was dependent on sugarcane. But look at the weight it has in the UN General Assembly. Anytime this question of blockade is put, you have sometimes 2 dissensions and 1 vote against. The whole world is with Cuba. That's strength, that's power. But we sit here and then, before we enter into a negotiation, we say, oh, we are too weak, we can't fight. Let them do what they want, let's go and beg, and so on. And then we invite the US ambassador, who herself knows nothing about what is happening in her country, to come and explain. Explain what? So, look, we've got, first and foremost, to realize that this is a changing world. One of the things which has compelled Donald Trump to very, very quickly backtrack is the realization by the rest of the world that the dollar can no longer continue to be the currency of preference for international trade. And since this tariff war started, that realization is catching up with everybody. So the US is in a state of panic. If the dollar no longer serves as a currency of preference for international trade, the collapse of the US empire fantastic. It will hasten. So they're quickly putting on the brakes. Because something is happening. Within the last 3 days, the US dollar has fallen, has dived. The dollar is collapsing. But you see, in all of this, I think there's something which we should not ignore. And it is not being ignored in the United States itself. Just the possibility that big business and billionaires are manipulating the world in order to benefit is also there. Before Donald Trump announced his tariff increases on what he called Liberation Day, he actually went on air and made a statement, a very profound statement, that this is the time to sell. What does that mean? What signal was that? So it is possible that out of all this confusion that the whole world is reeling under, some people have made billions of dollars from speculation. Now, who are those people who have made the billions out of speculation? Are they people who are related to Donald Trump? Are they close to Donald Trump? And And if they're close to Donald Trump, does that amount to corruption? And if it amounts to corruption, what will the United States itself and its laws do about it? You see, my brother, when I was young, and that's not a very long time ago. But when I was young, we were watching television sets produced in Ghana. Akasanuma. We were listening to radio produced in Ghana. We were lighting matches produced in Kede. Our farmers were using cutlasses produced here. We, some of us, had access to vehicles made in Kumasi, Darfur, and Adum trucks, made here, and so on. When I was young, the Atomic Energy Commission in Kwabenya had a reactor. We were thinking about nuclear energy to power our plants and so on. When I was young, we were dreaming big. The Afenia Youth Leadership Training Institute was a gliding school and so on. You understand? When I was young, we were building the best roads in the world. Indeed, Ghana built its first motorway before the United States of America. You understand? When I was young, you drive on the motorway and for every kilometer there was a telephone booth, just in case there was an accident and so on. Okay? When I was young, students in the universities were having 3-course meals with dessert. They were sleeping 1 or 2 persons in a cubicle, not the 12 persons in a cubicle today. When I was young, universal access to education was a policy. When I was young, adult literacy was a national policy. When I was young, we were fighting for the unification of Africa under the banner of socialism led by Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. When I was young, every African felt proud to be associated with Ghana. Today, look at where we are. I'm ashamed. The time has come for us to rise up again, to pick up the pieces, to build that country, that vibrant country that Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah dreamt about. The time has come for us to lace our boots and develop a model country in Africa, whose sole objective is to unite with other sister and brotherly countries on the continent to build that continental union of 56 countries under the broad banner of socialism. It is possible to do, and we must do it. That is our only salvation. I read the 7-year development plan today and I feel like crying. And you should know. Under the 7-year development plan, quite apart from the major hydroelectric projects and so on, we also had what we call the mini hydro projects. Those mini hydro projects were meant to provide water for irrigation and so on, in addition to providing electricity for our communities and so on. Those mini hydro projects were meant to be built at places which will become industrial hubs and so on. What happened to that 7-year development plan? Today, you are talking about 1 district, 1 factory, as if it's a huge innovation. Go and read the 7-year development plan and see the vision and so on. I feel sad. You see, but the sadness I feel is not the kind of sadness which will lead us to inaction. It's the kind of sadness which will wake us up, which will make us angry, which will make us hungry for achieving something for Ghana and Africa. This, as everybody else says, is a wake-up call. And if you don't wake up now, we will sleep forever. It is time to industrialize, it is time to unite, And it is time to confront the slave master. And we will confront the slave master not from a position of weakness. Those who are saying that we are weak, we are weak, we are weak. Do they understand history? Listen to the history of Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture was a slave. He didn't go to school. He taught himself how to read and write. Toussaint Louverture liberated himself as a slave and formed a small band of armed men to liberate other slaves. Toussaint Louverture, his struggles led to the establishment of the modern state of Haiti. Haiti. It is the efforts of Toussaint Louverture which led to the creation of the state of Haiti. Haiti. It became the first black independent republic in the world. Toussaint Louverture defeated the army of Napoleon. What did he have? If he was counting his weakness as we are counting ours, what would have happened? He was a slave. He didn't have a stick. When he started, he didn't have a stick. But he had a brain. He thought, he mobilized, he organized, and created the first independent black republic of Haiti. I'm reminded of the history of a woman, Field Marshal Matumbe of Kenya. I'm sure you know about Field Marshal Matumbe of Kenya, who was a general in the Mau Mau army. What did she have? They defeated British colonialism. What is this cowardice? We are weak. Weak who? How?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I will do a few of your comments and then we'll conclude our discussion on this particular today, because it doesn't look like it's something that will go away. It's a war that we are caught in the middle of. Question is, how do we react? Anyway, a few comments from those of you who are watching us. This one says, Sena, why can't African countries have one common currency? Africa should think within the box. His name is, okay, he says his name is Mahama from Wa. Thank you very much for that comment. A few more comments from those of you who are watching us currently. There's this one says, I wish God could enable Kwame Junior take a bit of his brain, dissolve it and let young Africans drink it, or get it vaccinated in the same, to benefit from the true African spirit in him, like Kwame Nkrumah. There's more from you. Good morning to you and your panelists. This Adam Kola, thank you very much. What 10% is that can't we move away from US like what other countries treat and be free? Ghanaians need development, not to give our small money to the US. Thank you very much for the comment. And this one says, I see nothing wrong with what Donald Trump is doing. His action reminds me of Asajifo and his West. Remember how Nkrumah dealt with our cocoa issue? Truly, our economic freedom and its consolidation is what will keep us going as a nation. If they impose, what do we as a country have to also impose to free ourselves from the hooks? During Osajifo's reign, you could feel the presence of our Ghanaian craftsmen knowledge, our institution and industrial technocrat works and activities. Ghanaians could produce a simple bolt and nut of standard to be used anywhere in the world. Today, with the increase in technologies, our education has to catch up and make us free. Our education to catch up and make us free is questionable. No wonder we are struggling with farming and galamsey, because the technology to handle our own natural resources, our scientific research centers and other institutions can't help unless we import the technologies and experts. I pray that our leaders will understand the reason for Ghana's independence to start working on 3 major things left for us as a nation, which was the reason for Osajifo's overthrow. Please talk to our privatization leaders for me. Snet sent that. Thank you very much for that comment. And this is Kucho, who says, please, let's all help and make Ghana great again. Otherwise, people will always make programs talking without results. Ghana needs those with home science also, not always book and pen. Who turns 6 to 9? Good morning. He sent that. Please, is Monza Tires in Ghana before, not a factory? Jute factory, shoe factory, glass factory, atomic energy and others in 9 years of Nkrumah's regime. Why now? Thank you very much. many more coming in. So we must understand that thinking of an American is different from a Ghanaian. The Americans think about the national interest, but the Ghanaian thinks about personal interest. The talk shows produce nothing but begging for help. The problem this country is nothing different from what we are witnessing, which is long talk about but less action. We Ghanaians believe in talk shows instead of working. The long talk shows produce nothing but a poor economy. Thank you. And this one says, this one simply says, Romulo, who says, I love Kwesi Pratt. He's a true African. He's highly learned. Send that. Thank you for that comment. This one, I really feel and understand the disappointment of senior Comrade Pratt. If we have people like Osofo Ntim Fojo as our lawmaker who is tarnishing the image of Ghana with pastoral lies, anyway, prophecy has no evidence. Bibi sent that from Osoko. Maybe quite an interesting ride he taking that comment alone. He started and said, prophecy has no evidence. Anyway, we have to move on to that discussion because our time is going very fast. So we'll move on to the discussion that we've had for some time now. Like I said, the last time something significant happened, the NIB was attempting to arrest him. They did not succeed. The arrangement, as we understood it, was that he was supposed to be brought to the NIB a day after. That was, I think that was yesterday at 8 a.m. But later, the minority leader says, unless they go through the speaker, nothing, they will not get opportunity to just have a conversation with him on the evidence you have of the things you've suggested. Leaders, help us. Where do we start from? Why do you have those suspicions? He says he won't provide those evidence. What he said in the public domain is good enough, that the investigative agencies should start from there. Richard Anyangba says the evidence is in Felix Kwachu Ofosu's statement, that there are inconsistencies in there. Those inconsistencies are the evidence the security agencies need. Well, and I realized from a discussion, I think the former member of Parliament, Thomas Central, and Mr. Kwesi Pratt had that. You said you were not tired of. He said he was tired of this whole discussion, and it was going nowhere. You said you were not tired. Well, first, let's start. Let me start from you. Your own views on.
Off-air conversations are off-air conversations.
Oh, okay. No, actually, I think it was said on air. I watched.
It was on another channel.
It was on another channel.
Oh, okay.
Yes, on another channel, not up there. So I'm referring to something that happened on it. Yeah.
Well, I'm still not tired. I'm not tired because, you see, the implications of this drug business is way wider than in Team Fojo and the discussions we are having, especially on our economy, and then our broader West Africa, our security and the future of our youth. But drilling it down to what has transpired over the last few days, I sincerely think that the NIB didn't need to take the steps that they took, because I've had dealings with the NIB in the past. They are a very professional body. In fact, some of the most brilliant people you find in Ghana find themselves working there. They don't go out to, their main core responsibility is to gather information or pick intelligence from the ground or pick intelligence internally. They are our internal intelligence agency. And a few of the people that I've met there, or I know there, are highly skilled people, highly skilled doctors, lawyers, teachers, people with a lot of experience in different backgrounds, and very professional in their approach to solving matters. But I want to broaden the discussion beyond what transpired, because what the minority has said, which is to go to through the speaker, is the right way to go about it. Anytime that even the police or security agencies want access to an MP, they can always have access to the MP, but they have to go through the speaker. So I think that is the path to go. If he has evidence, he should be able to go and adduce the evidence to the state authorities. For me, where I sit, I don't know whether he has evidence. But the drug menace in West Africa is a big, 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 big problem. The kind of resources that are being generated out of that can collapse the state. especially if the state hasn't got control over it. If you look at what is happening in the Sahel region, because the drugs that are coming are not produced here. Our places, West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Guinea-Bissau, always come up as drug transit points. For the last 20 years, or maybe 25 years, in fact from the 70s, we've always been associated with it. So we have to take it very seriously. Because one, you might think that somebody is moving a few kilos of cocaine through Ghana. Well, it might be supporting a terrorist organization. Most of the drugs that are going through West Africa are owned and run by international drug, what do you call it, cartels. The drug cartels, the PCCs, all Sena Nombo. They have bases here. They have operatives here. They have what they call super facilitators in our region. And some of them are Ghanaian. You know, so it is a big problem. It is associated with arms trade. It is not just sitting on its own. People sell drugs and they buy arms. All these Sahelian terrorist organizations that we keep talking about are all known to be part and parcel of these things. Even the tramadol that was coming into West Africa initially, it was linked to Boko Haram. So you might think that you're selling a few sachets of tramadol in town, and yet you'll be supporting that terrorist organization. When it comes to these drug flights, it is not new in Ghana. It's been going on. I mean, it's not that it's not popped up in the news. It's popped up in the news globally. The last time I was talking about 2 aircraft that disappeared in South America, and there was a scramble looking for them, and they appeared in Accra. When tests were made, there were traces of cocaine in there. So the allegations that Honorable Ntimfo was pushing out were not, I'm sure he got a tip-off from somebody, but maybe he will not have the concrete evidence to adduce to this, because sometimes you need the collaboration of the state agencies to be able to have access to that kind of intelligence or that kind of information, and that maybe in the future he should be able to manage it well and make sure that he has concrete evidence that he can easily put out there. I'm not doubting him, but this is my little advice for him. But if you look at these drug flights, all these aircrafts, for example, are coming from, there are aircrafts that are registered in the United States. All these aircrafts with this N registration, American registered aircraft. So you think that Uncle Sam is not aware of what is going on? It should be. It is not possible that these aircraft are running around in West Africa or are being used for these activities. In fact, there's a place in Texas called Alaska where all these aircrafts are registered. That place hasn't even got an airport. So sometimes it baffles me that small countries like Ghana and Co. are trying to fight hard or are trying to fight these things, and these things are coming from source countries, or these logistics companies are even based in such countries like the United States who are telling us to fight. It tells you that there's a bigger picture to it. Coming back home, the social implications of some of these transactions, $450 million worth of cocaine, I mean, for no work done, and you are competing with that same person to go and buy a plot of land, or to build a business, or to even compete on the political platform or on the political stage. How can you compete? You just cannot compete. He goes to the shop or he goes to buy the same property with you, and he goes there and he can dish out cash of $1 million to buy a land that should maybe cost $10,000. But because he has the money at his disposal, he has priced you out. So it has implications for our economy as well, that we should not let it wash by. That is why, for me, I was supporting the minority in their call for a broader inquiry. You know, that could give we could have some timelines, broaden it, and then let Ghanaians feel comfortable that, look, the state is not tacitly supporting it or participating in this, or it is not Ghana is not becoming a hub again. Because in the past we've had this situation where Ghana became a hub. It was called the Cocaine Coast and all that. But for now, for the last few years, it's died down. We were not hearing these things. But if it's popping up again, and that in a month, just within a month, over $450 million worth of cocaine has been seized, it should tell you that what has passed through is more than that. Or maybe it was passing through and we didn't know. So we should broaden the fight, broaden the scope, broaden the investigation, so that we'll come back to, I mean, we'll be able to clear Ghana from this kind of menace. And then also, lastly, the social canker that comes with it. Because there are so many young people. In the past, these drugs used to pass through our countries and end up somewhere else. Just about 1% of it stayed in Ghana. Today, if you check with NACOP, they're talking about 20% of whatever passes through stays here and is consumed by young people in Ghana. And it should tell you that then it becomes a big problem, because once your country becomes a consuming hub, it will suck out the life of your youth. That's number one. It will also suck out resources out of your economy, because if it costs even $20,000 a kilo, $30,000 a kilo, and people are spending that kind of money on something that would literally destroy them and kill them, it should tell you that you are destroying your own future. So we should be looking at fighting it from that perspective and making sure that we don't become a destination for such illicit activity, nor a transit point for such illicit activity. I mean, if you go into the history of the world, wars have been fought over this. In the past, what do you call them? The opium wars of the 18th century between Britain and China. It was all on the same subject matter we were discussing earlier on trade. The British needed access to the Chinese markets because they couldn't get access to the Chinese markets. And in fact, there was a trade balance between Britain and China. China was selling tea to Britain, and Britain couldn't retaliate with any goods. Britain decided to sell opium and went to war to force the Chinese to open their markets for opium. And that's how come Hong Kong became a British protectorate. Banks like the HSBCs and co. were all born out of that industrialization, or let me use that opium industrialization of the British, and trying to create the space for their products into the Chinese markets. So it should tell you that governments are behind it, or bigger institutions or bigger players are behind it. And if you allow yourself to become a conduit, it will eventually swallow you. If it doesn't swallow you, it will destroy you. So we have to take a very strong stance against it. And I think that is what the Honourable Member of Parliament was trying to achieve. That's my opinion, what he was trying to achieve in the long term. But maybe couldn't package it well, or they didn't couch it well, and it has created a mess that maybe we find ourselves in. So I would plead that we look at it from that perspective as well, so that we're able to safeguard our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll come to you, Mr. Landon. But a few comments from those of you who are joining us on Facebook. Benake Abua says, thank God it's Saturday again, the day we are waiting for. What makes Saturday so special is that we will have the opportunity to watch and listen to great and honest men and women who have the nation at heart to do justice to the happenings in the country. We are very grateful to you, comrades. Thank you very much. Eriko Kusapenu says, and to take total control of industrial manufacturing capability, sustainability, we shall be the rough end of this Trump trade war tariffs. Time to put good use to the CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Setabochi says, very soon, BRICS will take over the influence of the dollar. There's more. There's Abiu Mandela who says, Africa's future growth demands a shift towards intra-continental trade and a unified borderless economy. By reducing our reliance on Western trade and aid, we can unlock true progress and self-sufficiency as a continent. Lamin Talib Ahmed says, so government has paid out, okay, he's talking about outstanding allowances being paid. Samson Kekesh Do says, each time I travel on Aplau Road, I don't understand why we cannot irrigate the whole Accra Plains and build factories to process the fruits and vegetables produced from the irrigated fields. Kwame Bedu is talking about Toussaint Louverture. Says, action embarrassed France to the extent of putting embargo and charging Haiti for I don't know what amount every year. Stike says, okay, thank you very much for those comments you've sent. I'll read some more as and when they come in. Mr. Landing?
Thank you very much. You know, unlike my good brother here, I am tired of this conversation. No, honestly, I'm very tired. very, very, very tired, and I'm so tired. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether you're in Cape Coast last Saturday.
Last Saturday, no.
You're not, okay. I happened to be in Cape Coast last Saturday, and around this time I was driving to a function, and as I was tuning the radio, I can't remember which station it was, and I was listening to a discussion of the same topic. I was embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. Somebody who, didn't know what he was talking about, was talking about this matter. And as a Ghanaian, I was very embarrassed. Yes, there is no country in the world that doesn't have a problem with hard drugs. No country in the world. Every country is having problems because there's so much money to be made. The cartels are finding all kinds of routes to do their illicit trade, and all kinds of cover. So the whole narcotic business has become so sophisticated. From the United States government to the Russian government to every government in the world is having problems dealing with it. If you take even just Miami, take just 3 cities in America. Philadelphia. Just any 3 of them, especially the gateway cities. The problems they have with drug business is 10,000 times what Ghana can ever imagine. I'm talking about cities. Cities. But you don't hear them talking about it on the airways the way we are talking about this matter. You don't hear them talking about it like that. They solve the problem when it comes. And they put up systems to deal with it. Yes, we have the money, like my brother said. In national security, they are there. And these are people who have been there, professionals who have been doing this job over the years. Some of them have built the skills. They know how to track some of these people. And the people are also doing their best to try and, keep ahead of them. It's a difficult business to deal with. So it is not a simple matter. And in as much as this thing is happening, every country in the world tries to give its best face. The fact that you have a small problem at home doesn't mean you should go around telling everybody that in the world that in your home this is what people have, or in your backyard this is what is there. It doesn't happen like that. But what is happening here today, for the past, it's been nearly 2 weeks now, running story. Now the whole conversation has shifted from the initial suspicions to now whether it was an arrest or an invitation, or whether it was 20 people who went. I'm tired. We have 10% tariff facing us. We are thinking of how to deal with these problems. Our neighbors are ahead of the race. They are working ahead how to solve. Then we are spending time talking about this. I think it is unfortunate. It is very sad. And as a Ghanaian, I am so sorry. And I'm so sorry that my own friend, the Honorable Reverend Jim Fojo, and he is ranking member of Security and Defense. You have access to all the security people. Yes, there's been reference to cocaine halls. That yes, they found a haulage huge, about 150 of how many $1 million?
First one, 150 million. The other one was 350.
Can you imagine? And the 351, they found it inside the bucket of a tipper truck that had sand over it. And this truck had been traveling from somewhere in the western region and was apprehended at a traffic light in Cape Coast. The person who found the suspicion of that cocaine, he didn't go and do press conference. He took the information to whatever necessary bodies. When they got the information, whether they decide to track the vehicle When they decided to stop the vehicle, well, they went about it. They knew what they did. At the end of the day, they caught the people. The other police, the same way. Whoever got the intelligence, whoever got the information, they didn't do press conference. They sent the information to the right sources, and the right sources acted upon it. So why should a whole ranking member of such a committee, you have this information? I don't see why, if your intentions are purely to deal with the problem, why don't you just go and tell the people this is the problem and let them deal with it? And then if you're not satisfied, yes, come and make press conference. We all support you in dealing with whoever didn't take action. Because this is a horrible menace that can destroy this country. So on that score, that one day I will support you 100% and I will help you to fight. But when, it's a suspicion and we're not sure, then now the issue now becomes the response somebody gave and what somebody else said, the invitation, whether it came from the speaker or it didn't come, whether parliament was master. And you want us to use the important time to be discussing this matter. No, I'm tired. We have serious problems to deal with. We have serious issues to confront us. I mean, how? Let us, and you see, our bane in this country has been the politicking. Yes. Politicking! When there's a problem and we want to deal with it, and we take political cover, then we the same fact, they want to look at it from a certain angle because we are on this side. Then we don't, no. It doesn't help us. It does not help. It doesn't solve the problem. Let us face the issues and deal with it. So for me, honestly, I am very, very disappointed that such an issue has come up. Because one, we are tarnishing, and you see some of the commentary that is coming, like I'll tell you about this conversation I was overhearing yesterday, last week, on another radio station, in Gibcos. The man, the authority who was discussing this matter, he was informing the people about Las Palmas, Canary Islands. And he was speaking Fanti. Fanti is the literature. Very colorful description of the Canaries and how they do drug business. I said, oh, how can you describe another country like this? Does he know what he's talking about? And you see, these are the things that are going on. And so the people who don't know and are listening, I mean, what are you telling them? And then, I mean, it's just too bad. Look, we have to move away from this. If there is evidence, please just provide evidence and let them deal with it. Fine. If it turns out that it was information that was not correct, oh, well and good. When the security agencies get information, do they believe that all of it is credible? No. There may have been strong grounds to suspect or believe. There may also be situations where it may have been true, but the people may have outwitted you. All that are facts. But at the end of the day, let the professionals deal with it. If the way they dealt with it is the way that we were not happy, then we take them on. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes even these professional agents all over the world, when they see some of these people, for various reasons, they might even allow the person to go through or to get the sense that they have been successful, because they are looking for something beyond that. So this is a matter that is being discussed by or being talked about by none other than the ranking member. I mean, it is for me unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Then now it becomes a political thing. Then other people, no. I think as a country, Ghana, we deserve better. We deserve better for ourselves. We deserve better, and we have to do far better than this. We should be putting our heads to the wheel and looking for solutions to our problems. That is what should be engaging us. Then talk about something like this. I think a very big disservice has been done, and I think this should also serve all of us. Because in the process, things have been said, reputations have been damaged. There should be proper investigation. And where reputations have been damaged, people's brands have been damaged, I think they should take the appropriate actions as a deterrent to all of us who get the opportunities and privilege to speak on platforms, national platforms. I mean, we can't just do this. We can't do this to ourselves. Huh? What they forget? Tomorrow, he himself, and all the others, all of us, Ghanaian passport holders, you are traveling. You get to a certain border point, and the customs people decide to deal with it in a particular way. You forget that it's a consequence of some of these conversations. You forget. These are the things we are doing to ourselves. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help us at all. So for me, dear Maza, I am tired and I condemn the way it has been handled. I wish my good friend somebody had just gone forward. Even if it was. Yes, maybe he had had some good grounds to believe something was going on. Maybe whoever brought him that information also had good grounds to believe, so he too took that source as an authentic source. But then, you are in a privileged position. Deal with it properly. Maybe the motivation would have been to try to embarrass the other side. But in the process, you are embarrassing all of us. All of us, including himself. So we should go beyond this type of way of dealing with these things, you know. And I think that it's unfortunate. It's something that we should learn from. And I hope the consequences that will come out of this thing should be a lesson. So next time round, when something like this happens, we'll deal with it properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lang. First, let's say a big thank you to Kiss FM 89.7 in Takoradi, Shine FM Akachi 96.9, Hills FM and Adakula 91.7 FM, Jamas Radio Ketekwachi 89.7, Sela Radio Dabalawa 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale on 93.7, Bell Radio END 106.5, Radio Kitawa in Saboba on 95.7, Benya FM Elmina 105.7, Global FM 105.1 in Ho, Zebs FM 95.9 in Zebila to Jarvis and everybody there, True FM 92.5 in Adeso, Lamara FM 89.1 in Tripoli, Boem 88.7 FM in Jessica, and Lukusi 96.1 in Virgo, Lukwati, Tyne FM on 90.9, Sekpele 104.3 FM in Lake Bay, Akbini Radio in Kwando, Denigba Radio 90.9, and Oti Radio in Dambai. They are all tuning to us. Leader.
Thank you. This is the first time that I'm getting the opportunity to make a comment about this. So I've been hearing that something that has been going on and people are tired of hearing it. As you know, I was out of town on, leading a non-aligned movement parliamentary network conference somewhere. So I just got back and haven't actually, you know, it's the first time, as I said. I have read a few about this, things about this, and I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. And surprisingly, I saw this coming, but I didn't even know that it would take this form. As you rightly said, my good friend, Honorable Reverend Ntim Fojo, is the ranking member of the Interior and Defense, a committee that I also serve on. And I have never been on the committee before, you know, in all my life in Parliament. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to serve on a committee. I'm not security or intelligence expert. So basically, we're all learning. We have two ministers, that is the Interior Minister and the Defense Minister. So it's a joint committee. So briefings are given by the ministers. So they have just taken office as two ministers, Defense and Interior. And we had invited them as a committee to give us a briefings on some of the things that are going on. In that meeting, of course, we have all sworn an oath. In that meeting, there were quite a number of things said at the meeting. Of course, I've sworn it, so I cannot talk about any of those things. But I sat there for a while, and I thought too much information was being given to the committee. As I said, I've not been on a committee before, so I don't know how much information is given out and all that. But the ministers, and at one point, one of the ministers said that, I know you have all sworn a oath of secrecy, which obviously, it's like he prompted himself that maybe I'm saying more than I should say. In fact, I discussed with, not discussed, but I said something to one of the colleagues on the committee that, is that what they do? I mean, she has been on a committee before. So I said, is that what they do on a committee? I mean, I think there's too much information here. But then again, we are the Defense and Interior Committee. So if the ministers are going to say anything about, we are the ones, and if we have any information, that is also the place to. So if Reverend Intim had any information, just as the ministers were giving us information, he could have also come up with the information that he's gotten. I believe that Honorable Folio has no intelligence. And I'll tell you why.
He has no information of intelligence.
Oh, information of intelligence. I should put it that way properly. No information of intelligence. But as a partisan and parochial interest and wanted to shine, to his base, he picked one or two things being said and embellished it. That's what I think he did. As I said, I cannot talk about things that were said. And so when I heard it, as I said, I suspected, because I said the information being given to us is an information that can be taken and misconstrued, and all sorts of things can be done to that information. So that's why I asked that, do we get that much information, that much briefings? But then I thought, if we don't get that much briefing, who should the Interior and the Defense Minister be talking to actually? So he just took something that does not relate to what they were telling us, but you can easily make a story out of it to make this story. And that is why he's got himself into that difficulty of now saying things that he has no evidence, these allegations that he's made. Quite frankly, he's wasting everybody's time. Because the NIBs and all that chasing him up, I can tell you the guy has nothing, no information. Because when I put two and two together, I can see where he's coming from. Committees, we have been told that you can get a lot of information from your committee and help your party in terms of, especially when you are in opposition. So, I mean, in our time, those things came from the finance committee and all that, and that's what we build our opposition on. So he probably wants to lead his opposition, not in terms of becoming a leader, but actually creating this line of stories from, if what I'm thinking is right, I think, and this is probably strong to say, that we may have to look at expelling him from the Interior and Defense Committee. Probably strong. But for the reason that it will become difficult going forward for the Interior and Defense Committee to actually get briefings from the two ministries, because this oath of secrecy and all that we have done has proven to be not the case. I can tell you that his story came out of some briefing, and he took it to a different level and embellished it with something that is untruth, and came out to did this press conference, and now he's in a situation that he's being invited to come and substantiate what he's been saying, and he has no basis, and then he's doing macho stuff. You know, I am not commending or I condemn the manner in which, you know, people are invited, in terms of, we have had a few incidents where people's home, you know, they've attacked their home, or they've gone to their home to invite them. I don't know whether that's the right procedure to do it. But if he really has that information, and he's in that powerful position of a ranking member, he should go to the security agencies himself. Nobody should even invite him. But he's acted irresponsibly as a ranking member to go to town with this story that he's peddling around. But as I said, I suspected, not him, but I suspected that the information that we were getting, somebody is going to try and create something out of it. Less than a week, and the story was already out about planes, about cocaine and all that. Look, without belittling these things, one of the, I should say, four things, basically, that is troubling Africa today and creating all the problems we have today is this narcotics issue, the drug smuggling issue. The second one is money laundering issue. The third is illicit financial flows. And fourth, obviously, is corruption. These four things are killing us. And anything that comes after, they should not be handled lightly. Therefore, it is important that we investigate matters of, drug smuggling, money laundering, illicit, financial flows, and corruption. But that does not mean that you can create stories that are not credible just for parochial interest or for partisan sake. You want to, sort of do something to show some macho-ness, or that you have access to information from, to your base. So, my friend, Honorable Intim Fojo, this thing has taken a new twist. And why people are fed up with it is that we are wasting resources on this. We are distracting our security services, because real drug smuggling, real illicit financing, real money laundering is actually going on as we go on with this story. NIB people are in a house that they probably shouldn't be, because the issues are somewhere else, which they have not even, because of distraction they are following. So I think he's been very irresponsible. As I said, I was in a committee with him. I mean, he is a ranking member there. And I knew that something was going to come out of what we were being briefed on, and nothing to do with drugs or anything. But he's been able to create this story out of it, done a press conference, unilateral press conference. If you have that information, even me, an ordinary member of the committee, could have gone to the security service, and you, the ranking member, can call for a meeting and probably discuss these matters. But you choose to do it another way, and then everything has become partisan in this country. That once he's doing it for the party, we should all follow him, try and, you know, help him to resist arrest or whatever it is. That's what we become. And we are creating a security risk in this country by these kind of things. As I said, destruction of security agencies and all that, it's not going to make them focus and perform their duties as they should. So it is right that if he did not invite himself, to be invited. The method of inviting him, I don't know whether they were in stages. They called him, he didn't come, and then they went for him. I don't know how that happened. But I condemn any kind of breaking into people's homes to try and arrest them, for trying to bring them to help with investigation. There should be a better way of doing these things. But he brought it on himself. I am quite sure of that. I will be shocked if something is found out of this. The story was created, embellished for parochial interest. And we will see that at the end of the day, as we continue to talk about this, eventually whether he invites himself or they take him, or I don't know, whether it goes through parliament or whatever, we will find out that there's nothing in this. And we have taken an awful lot of time, resources, that we could have used to investigate genuine and proper cases of cocaine smuggling and all these things that I have mentioned. But we'd rather use it politically to play a political game and get all manner of, you know, people behind people saying this is a political witch hunt and all that. But the politics is making us irresponsible. As political elite, we are becoming irresponsible because of partisan politics. We are quick to run to town to destroy people, destroy names, destroy that, just because we are trying to play to our base. And we know that if anything happens, our colleagues from our side will come and help us. This has gone down to even the grassroots. Somebody commits, an honorable member is here. He's been an MP. Somebody does something wrong, commits a crime. They take him to the police station. And then he calls his MP or the party. Yeah. And he says, because I'm NDC, because I'm NPP. Because we started this at the top. They know that when they get into trouble, their people will come, whether they are wrong, whether they've been corrupt or whatever. You get away with it. Corruption will become a political witch hunt. Anything will be political witch hunt. And your people will come. You may have people on your side who even believe you've done the crime, who will come and support you. Because you are trying to look after each other. And that has trickled down to the very bottom. That there's not a genuine crime anymore in this country. Every crime has a political color. Because I'm NPP, because I'm NDC. That's the country we live in today. And people like him, as I said, I am looking forward of some punitive action taken against him in Parliament. Because now he jeopardizes getting the right briefing. Because everybody, the ministers are going to be careful now in what they say. And we may not get the right briefing. I hope not. Because of people like him and the things that they've done. And there has to be something, or something needs to happen that will deter people who have been given that kind of responsibility and sworn an oath of secrecy to just open their mouth and say anything just because to them it makes political sense. So, I don't know where this is going to end, but I can tell you it will not amount to anything. I really believe in what I think has taken place. He's a nice guy, but I thought he probably wanted to punch above his weight. in creating all these things. And now, of course, he's been able to achieve that. He's in all newspapers, and everybody is talking about him. But there's nothing wrong. It's not a crime to make an allegation about something that you have a suspicion. But it has to be credible. Because if it's not, you are going to create a security risk and a distraction. And for somebody in that position of responsibility, it's unacceptable. Really unacceptable. And I think that's how this thing will go. But I'm more interested in what happens to him in Parliament. I would not want to be sitting in an Interior and Defense Committee with him. Because I don't know what I will say that will end up out. I never suspected that something happens, it will be him. But it just happened that he has come out to say something that closely ties in with something. And that is completely different. But he's been able to marry the two to create some kind of a believable story, because we have a smuggling issue in the country, because we have a money laundering issue in the country, and therefore it sounds good, and therefore we should listen to him. But that is, we're wasting resources in following this issue, and it's been going on here for a week or so, and it's still going on. Now it's taking a different twist. Now it's not about the matter anymore. It's not about the place that arrived there, but it's the method in which he was being invited to go and explain himself. This is unfortunate. And there are bigger issues, bigger fish to fry in this country. The situation that we are in terms of the economy and where we are going. And Honorable Ntimfodjo steals the day. That's unfortunate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Basically, if you don't understand what he's saying, he said the man add 1 to 1 and converted into 3 and then came to tell us. But what an interesting, but thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I'll come to Comic Kwesi Pratt Jr. Shortly. But first, this one is Musa Abato, as Sawasi says, so I fully align with Kwesi Pratt's position. President Donald Trump's mentality clearly reflects a capitalist agenda that prioritizes profit over people. His tax policies, which often stifle businesses rather than support them, are outdated and counterproductive in today's progressive economic landscape. Africans must wake up and recognize that blindly following such models can be detrimental to our growth and sovereignty. It's high time we carve our own path that supports local industries and empowers the next generation. It may already be late, but it's not too late to act. Thank you for that. Okay, there's some more. This one says, MPP parliamentarians have an agenda of going all out to bring and frustrate President Mahama's government. You see how former Vice Baumia is applauding the minority as 88 Battalion for their stance in Parliament. They have an agenda, Sana. Thank you. You didn't add your name to that comment when you say. And then this one says, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Some more. Hello, Pan-African TV. The 2 airlines should just sue MP Ntimfodjo to put this matter to rest. Says a good morning to Mr. Philip Langdon. That's coming from Rainy, who sent that. Kucho, again, Kucho says, Sena, so you people don't know the strategy of this UP-MPP. No number of matter is just to divert our focus from ECG matters. Nothing but that. They always have meetings on that. They are just using the Reverend Nfodjo because he's a novice in politics, frankly. There's Ken who also says, this Ken Williams' thought on this matter. Let me get that and read it out to you. It says, it's good GM acted promptly to invite Ntimfodjo to provide evidence for his cock and bull stories. Let him know that the rumor mongering is not part of his parliamentary duties or oversight. The days of fake news is gone, and those who peddle falsehood to vilify others must be ready to face the music. In 2016, they accused GM of having luxury hotels, mansions, stolen funds, and ships abroad without evidence. The era of gutter politics is over, and he who alleges must prove. That saith the law. A few comments from Facebook. Nasir Mohammed says, Ntimfodjo is providing He's proven to be an accomplished liar. He was part of the group that reported that 5.7 million students went through the free SHS, and it turned out to be the whole 2.5 million less. He knows he told lies, and the sad thing is his party is following him. MPP is a dangerous party. When they are in opposition, they are ready to destroy the nation. I'll be surprised if they are glad or supporting the mayhem. Okay, thank you very much. Robert Kofi is also joining us. Says, this is a problem I have with MPs and politicians. They are always saying, my friend, our good friend, even when the person in question is doing criminal things. That's why some people... That's why some people say that all politicians are the same, because they are calling each other friends, and they are each other's keepers in crime and everything. MPs should face the law. That's Bright Meridew. It's also saying, which country in the world will tolerate such a useless behavior from its citizens? Not even, okay, you can't say that. Do not, why? He's watching us live from Awoshi. There's Eric Okusepan who is also joining us. So it's high time our parliament explains to us Ghanaians what it meant by this title they gave themselves, ranking member. Our parliamentary committees operating on military rank rules. And now the interesting angle to this is now that I realize that the minority is not demanding that Felix Kwachu also resigns. And that is the basis is that the inconsistencies in the first account he provided. So now they've turned the gun on Felix, and Felix has become anyway, Mr. Pratt.
Well, first of all, let's and Honorable, the two aircrafts you referred to, which came into the country and tested positive for cocaine, it's important to state that the date of their arrival in the country was December 2023.
Yes.
That's an important clarification.
23rd December and 25th December.
2023. Okay. Yes, so that we are clear that we are talking about 2023 and not 2025. Now, there are significant differences between what happened in 2023 and what happened now. And a significant difference is that these planes flew under radar. Very important.
But they were declared missing.
But they flew under radar. Completely illicit. They didn't get clearing permits. So they landed illegally. They flew under radar. That's 2023.
Like thieves.
They came in the thick of night, as it were. They flew under radar and came into this country in 2023 and tested positive for cocaine. Now, the other thing which is most important about this is that the pilots managed to run away. 2023, the pilots flew these two planes into Ghana illegally, without permission. The planes tested for cocaine, but the pilots managed to run away. Significant. Now let's come to what is happening now. You know, Sena, I just can't wrap my head around what is happening now. And what is happening is absolutely nonsensical. I don't know why we are wasting our time with it. First, let's deal with the issue of capacity. There's a guy who addresses a press conference and says that I'm speaking on behalf of the minority. This is press conference. I'm speaking on behalf of the minority. When he sees the problems that are coming out of the press conference, he retreats. And now says, I'm speaking on behalf of the parliamentary committee. When that doesn't go well, he quickly retreats again and now is speaking on behalf of the minority. What is the capacity? Who is he speaking for? And up to today, he says he's not speaking for himself. He's not owning his statements. He cannot own his statements. He's either speaking for the parliamentary committee or speaking for the minority. So he's not even owning the statements. That's important. Then, Masa, for me, the biggest joke of all, the biggest joke. The guy says, I am very suspicious that something is wrong. And my suspicion, most importantly, is based on the fact that an ambulance aircraft came into Ghana. There was no dead body on it. There was no sick person on it. And I haven't seen a medical referral. What? Boss, can you believe this?
This is Ghana.
This will not happen in Kukusland. Kukusland, it won't happen there. So the suggestion is that anytime you see an ambulance, there must be a dead person on it. If there's not a dead person on it, there must be a sick person on it, or you must see a medical referral. What nonsense! And we are following this. Is that true? That anytime you see an ambulance, there must be a dead person on it? There must be a sick person on it, or there must be a medical referral. Is this the basis for suspicion? I can't believe it. And we are dancing around in circles around this rigmarole. I mean, what is this? It doesn't end there. The joke doesn't end there. I saw a clip of one of the leaders of the NPP being interviewed by a beautiful lady. And the lady poses a very simple question. Does Anti-Imperialist have evidence? And the man gets very angry. And he ends up saying that the evidence is in the inconsistencies. The inconsistencies are the evidence. Why are we following this? Master, what is wrong with us? Then they say, we want more information. So, 2 days ago, asked, so what is the information they want? One, we have been provided with the type of aircrafts that came into the country. We know the types. We know the registration details of the aircrafts. We know. We know the cargo they carried. We know. We have customs inspection reports. We know. We know the dates of their arrival and so on. So what other information are they looking for? What information has not been provided? Has anybody been able to tell you what information they are looking for which has not been provided? I'm baffled. And this thing has gone on and on and on and on and on for 2 weeks. Nothing, no substance, empty air. 2 weeks. Look at the problems we've been discussing around this table. They are all forgotten. And this empty air has been discussed for 2 weeks. And then, now, the thing has shifted to some other things. I mean, oh, the people who came to arrest him, they were wearing masks. Master, you know better than me. I mean, former MP, knowledgeable person, current MP, and my brother here, we are quite knowledgeable. Tell me, security services, under some circumstances, cannot wear masks? Are you telling me that this particular case? Tell me what is wrong. Somebody must be telling me what is wrong. So, Master, I used to say I am tired. I'm tired of this particular conversation. I used to say that. Now I'm not tired. I'm angry. I'm angry that anybody, any group of persons will decide to take us on this merry-go-round. Complete merry-go-round. No merit, nothing. Just noise-making. I can't believe it. And then the guy now is taking on titles. The last title I saw was in some newspaper. What was he called? You understand? Master, I think we should drop it. Let's drop it. It has no value. Let's drop it. Look, when he held this press conference, you know that the president did not order his arrest. The president did not order his arrest. What the president simply said was that, oh, like you, I'm worried about these serious allegations that you are making. And that we should work together in order to establish the facts.
Collaborate.
So, and the effective word was collaboration. So I'm instructing the security agencies to collaborate with you to go into all your suspicions and establish the facts for the benefit of every Ghanaian, for the benefit of everybody. That's what the president said. The guy says, I'm not coming. You lie bad. I won't come. Come and work with us. In fact, that is your responsibility as a member of the Defense and Interior, what committee is that?
Defense and Interior.
Committee, that is your responsibility. You are supposed to be working with the state security agencies. It's your responsibility. Carry out your responsibility. He says, no, I'm not coming. And for 2 weeks, he hasn't come. And we are dancing around him. You know, and then, Master, let's drop it. Master, let's drop this matter.
Very interesting listening to the discussion. Somebody even cites the president, what the president's post on Facebook as evidence that there's something there. And that if there's nothing there, why did the president say that they should go and investigate the matter?
That's his interpretation.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting just listening to the debates across on this matter. It's so
clutching a straw, clutching a straw, knowing that eventually it will get to nothing. Everybody involved in this drama knows that this is not going anywhere.
Wasting everybody's time.
Just a waste of time. And my brother, listen. Even the origin of the aircraft, they get it wrong. Even the origin of the aircraft, they get it wrong. And then this thing about this air ambulance, that how come? In fact, I was listening to one senior member of the NPP and I laughed. He says, even the fact that the aircraft stopped here for fueling shows that there's something wrong. Oh. Because when they were moving from where they were coming from, didn't they calculate how much fuel they would take?
No.
Why did they have to land here? Master, there are aircrafts with a smaller capacity for carrying fuel.
They pick fuel everywhere.
So they pick fuel as they go along.
Even the flights that come from Europe to Africa, they pick fuel before they go back.
That is true. In fact, the Gulf Stream, presidential jet, it flew from Accra to Havana. When it got to Brazil, it couldn't continue because the fuel couldn't take it there.
Well, it has to pick fuel.
So it has to pick fuel from Brazil. Okay? It's normal practice for aircraft to stop to pick fuel. Some of them don't have big enough fuel tanks to do more than a certain number of hours. And in fact, on this panel, we are privileged because this man is a pilot. He knows he's a pilot. If what I'm saying is wrong, tell me. He's a licensed pilot.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? That's a licensed pilot sitting here. And a senior member of the New Patriotic Party. I don't blame him if he doesn't know. We don't know everything. None of us knows everything. But the fact of the matter is that smaller aircrafts, as they travel, they keep taking fuel because of the size, the capacity they have for carrying fuel. And this is the basis, they say this is also one of the suspicions. Hey, babe! Oh!
A journalist with, I think, GH1 wrote to Ahmed on these allegations, and this is what they say, that, okay, on March 20th, 2025, Ahmed International Aircraft N823AM departed the United States for a scheduled international patient transport. As part of the planned flight path, the aircraft made multiple stops for fuel, including a stop at Kotoka International Airport.
Multiple stops. Multiple stops.
Yeah. So I checked. They actually stopped in Morocco before they came. They didn't just come from Gran Canaria, Morocco, Accra, to wherever they were going to. So
they continued that upon landing in Ghana, the aircraft experienced a maintenance issue.
Exactly.
2 blown tires that required replacement. No patient was on board at the time. To address the mechanical issue, a second aircraft was dispatched with the necessary replacement parts, supplies, and 2 maintenance technicians. Over the next several days, repairs to aircraft N823AM were completed, and we returned to the U.S. on March 25, following standard protocols and the required rest period for the flight crew. On its return flight, N823AM made a planned 4 stop at Gran Canaria airports, and continues will fully cooperate in any official inquiry into N823AM's presence in Ghana. We are confident that the flight documentation and mission details will clearly demonstrate that the Ahmed aircraft was not engaged in any illicit or illegal activity.
So that means Gran Canaria wasn't even its original...
No. So it came from a place in the U.S. called Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
So from Birmingham, Alabama to Gran Canaria to West Coast, and then West Coast to wherever it was going. The last destination, I'm still not sure of where they're going to pick the passenger. And then, then the second one came with the technical crew.
Okay.
So the technical crew came with the spare parts and the tires and stuff. I came to do the changes here and needed certification on needed it to be signed off. So they signed off before they went back. So the second aircraft went to continue with the mission of picking the passenger, came back, refueled, and then they left. That's all. That's what transpired.
Well, there's another interesting angle. I heard one of the press conferences, one very senior member of the MPP actually saying that, the plane which is supposed to have brought the spare parts, it didn't have a hole for cargo.
That's what doesn't. It was very wrong. It didn't make sense.
But this is the evidence, this is based on their suspicion.
No.
The second aircraft didn't have a hold for cargo.
In fact, that aircraft has enough hold for cargo. And even when we don't have any passengers, you can put the parts in the plane. Because, when COVID came, we converted all these, commercial aircraft into cargo. We're just putting the nose marks on the seats. Yeah. Ethiopian Airlines, that's what they were doing, and we're putting them on the seats and flying. So you can use the space for anything you want to use.
So if you don't have the information, don't talk. If you don't know, don't address a press conference. Save your party. Your party already is under stress. Advasafu is throwing bombs and so on. Concentrate on that. You don't have the facts, you don't have the analysis, you want to address press conferences.
Advasafu through grenades. She's warming up for the bombs.
Let me thank you to my panel today. Yes, actually. Comrade Kwesi Pride Jr., General Secretary of Socialist Movement of Ghana. Of course, nice to have you. And nice to see Mr. Philip London, who is a leading member of the Movement for Change. And then Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable George Kweku Reke-Sagan, join us. And it's a pleasure for the first time.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed myself.
And you should come along.
Yes, we want to see a lot more. Who's Honorable Ninoy, not Hansen Naughty.
Yes, other.
That's the
French.
I
intend to abandon it very soon.
Yes. Your name always reminds me of, I don't know if you know Ninoy Naughty. He's also a member of your party. I think he's prominent in one of the constituencies in Accra. Anyway, so he's Ninoy Hansen Naughty. Yes. You will see another name but let's leave it. He's former member of parliament for Tema Central. But before we go, just two things. First, happy birthday to Hamza Suhini. Hamza Suhini celebrates his birthday today. Today is his birthday. That's what the production crew has told me. So happy birthday to Hamza Suhini. And then congratulations to our friend Angelo Kojo-Fiagbe, who will actually be installed as Togbi Ahonkwo the 5th Divisional Chief of DAPA later this month. I am Sena Nombo. We are back same time next Saturday with another edition of Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. Thanks for making time.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people